NIL Now with Lauren Sisler and Kevin Jones.
If you want to learn more about name, image, and likeness, you need to go to The Source. The NIL Now podcast from Headline Studio and Reddit highlights the biggest storylines with comments from key guests in the college and high school NIL space.
NIL is not a cherry on top. It needs to be thought about as a part of these young men and women's future to, further their careers. You should be able to leave college with something.
Subscribe to NIL Now on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Every year, thousands of human remains are found in the United States. And in one of every 4 instances, authorities can't identify the body. That's starting to change. I'm Dave Killen, co-host of The Unidentifieds, a new limited series podcast from the Oregonian and OregonLive. We go deep into several cold cases and explain the science that's helping experts give these long-forgotten people their names back. Look for The Unidentifieds after you've finished listening to this podcast. Subscribe to The Unidentifieds on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
We are just over 1 week away from the NBA lottery, a day that could change the fortunes of the Blazers franchise, or more than likely just keep them right where they are. Anyway, I am Aaron Fentress of The Oregonian. I cover the Blazers primarily for the Oregonian and OregonLive, and I'm joined by Craig Birnbach, my main man. Craig, have you caught lottery fever yet, or is this 8 days out from the time we're recording this? Are you still just not, thinking about it too much, or are you fired up for it?
You keep forgetting I'm a Knicks fan. Like, I'm fired up that my team's still playing, baby. If the Bulls were alive, you'd still have some, you'd be hyped about that. So I got some Knicks fever.
Fair, but I'm asking you to shift into Blazer focus mindset.
No, I never get excited about. Look, as a Knicks fan, I know a lot about the lottery. And I'm just saying, I try not to get excited about it, because to me, the lottery is like earned awfulness. Like, you earned it. Like, you're awful. Like, so you got there because you stink. So there's no reason to be that happy. And also, it's a lottery. And if anyone thinks, it's like saying, what is your, you don't want to get a job, you don't want to go to school, so how are you going to get rich? The lottery. Like, don't get excited about that. I'll watch it and I'll wish. But again, one of my best birthdays of all time, May 12th, 1985, the Knicks won Patrick Ewing.
One air quotes because they cheated, but go ahead. Just kidding.
Whatever. That's my birthday.
Whatever.
My birthday.
That was your birthday?
And I remember being a little kid and saying, we're going to win a championship. We're getting Patrick Ewing, who was by far at that time, like, he was, just so good. And that's when he stayed in school for 4 years. Didn't win all 4 championships, went to the Final Four. And you know what? I'm 50 and I'm still waiting. So I don't get that excited. And also 2017 or when the Greg Oden lottery, I was sitting in Charleston, South Carolina in my sports office. I had applied for the job. I had, I think, 2 interviews at that point with the KATU in Portland. I was hopeful to get the job, and I knew I would take it if they gave it to me. And I watched with people like my 2 co-workers that worked for me as a sports director. They had no idea, right? Because you don't tell people that yet until you get offered a job. And the Blazers won the lottery. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go to Portland, and they're going to win championships. I got the game. So that's my lottery experience. Like, I don't buy it even if you win it. It doesn't guarantee it. Because I thought twice in my life I was going to be heavily impacted by winning the lottery, and there were going to be parades. And you know how many NBA parades I've attended? None. 0. Because my Knicks never won and the Blazers have never won.
I'm glad you told those stories, because they're gonna tie into my Factor Fentress at the end.
There you go. We didn't even plan it.
I'm getting pumped up for the lottery just because I cover this team, and it's intriguing, and it's, you want to see what happens. There's going to be something to write about either way. And of course, if they get number 1, wow, Like that would just be pretty amazing. And we've seen that happen before, like you brought up with Odin, and that didn't go so well. But yeah, I'm getting pumped up for it. Like I'm like starting to like think, okay, now we're within striking distance of it.
What
So
else you got to be pumped
yeah,
about?
I mean that's true too. I mean, yeah, I have much else going on professionally in my life right now. I'm doing these player capsules, which we'll talk about at some point. But first, let's just get to something that's kind of a little cheesy. But every time Damian Lillard goes somewhere, and there's been different stories and things put out there by people in the media linking Lillard to certain teams that might be interested in acquiring him, all that kind of buzz stuff executives say, blah, blah, blah. I mean, look, if Dame becomes available, there's probably going to be 20 teams interested in talking to the Blazers about him. So anytime someone says team A could have interest, that doesn't mean that much because I think most teams would have interest. But I think it's ridiculous that if Lillard shows up at a game like he did game 3 Suns Nuggets, that people are saying they're trying to make up things or tie things or whatever. But I thought it would be interesting at least to explore two possibilities there. One, Dame to Phoenix if Paul retires or they can move him out. And now you have a trio of Dame, Booker, and Durant. Or just trying to get Ayton out of Phoenix to get him to Portland to play with Dame and Grant and whomever else is remaining. What do you think of those two things?
Never.
Never? Never?
I mean, come on. Like, what? First of all, how big is your payroll going to be in Phoenix?
No.
Like, how big?
Hold on. Let me look at Paul's. Keep talking while I look at Paul's contract.
I'm just saying, he's not making $60 million, and Dame is. So, yes, he'd have to retire, and you have to move off of that. But, yeah, of course, they'd be right now the Suns are playing amazing without Paul because Devin Booker is playing at a level that is you can't play better than him. He's shooting at a rate that you can't believe, and he's mostly playing point guard for that team. And I didn't know he had that. I did not know he could basically be a point guard that shoots 80% from everywhere on the court.
What's point guard mean anymore? Is he really a point guard or is he just a guy with the ball? Anyway, go ahead.
Well, but I'm just saying he's a ball-heavy guy and he's getting assists, and they're winning. So, and he's shooting. Now, what did he shoot? 14 for 18 in the last game? Like, that's insane because he doesn't dunk that often, right? He's shooting jumpers and pull-ups. And look, if you're going to have to trade Dame, getting you want to get a quality player back. Ayton's a quality big who's young. He looks old, but he's not. But yeah, I just don't. That team would win a championship. I could promise you that.
So here's
Booker and Durant.
Here's the scenario. So CP3's contract is not fully guaranteed the next 2 years. Only half of it is guaranteed for next year, and then I think the same for the next year. So there's some wiggle room there if you're Portland because the trade would be Dame for CP3 and Ayton. Now you can't get picks though. I don't think. Well, you can, but I don't know how many because the Suns gave a lot of picks to Brooklyn for
yeah, they did.
Durant. So maybe there could be some swaps or something or some picks down. I don't think they can really do first. Maybe just some swaps, whatever. I don't know, whatever. But so the prize would be Ayton. And then if you got Chris Paul back, you could cut him loose and just give him his guaranteed money. He could walk and then go re-sign with the Lakers, right? As a free agent for the minimum or whatever. So the Lakers get him and they can try him out at 38. And the Blazers and the Suns get Dame, Booker, Durant. You cannot tell me that's impossible. Are you saying that's impossible?
I'm not saying it's possible. I'm telling you my hair growing back has a better chance. You and I have a better chance coming back with pros than this trade or whatever.
Okay,
because
fine.
If you're Joe Cronin, you want picks, and I don't even know if you want a big like Ayton. Like I don't know if that's the way to go in this league. I mean he's talented. It's not the way the league is going, right? I mean right now they're going up against a 7-footer who plays point guard and does he's an alien in Jokic, but. I'm just saying, I don't think the league is going towards the Ayton type player who can't shoot, and he's a fantastic big at his age. It's just tough, and guarding is tough in this league with him. And that'd be the reason why the Suns would be willing to give him up, right? Back in the day when Patrick Ewing was drafted, they weren't going. Ayton's not getting swapped for very little, or for a point guard. Because back then we were like, what do you need a point guard for? Roy Sparrow scores 8 and 8 a game, 8 points, 8 assists. That's good, So it's a different league. So I don't see that happen.
Okay, what about just Ayton to Portland for some picks and Nurkic? If Phoenix wanted to move off of Ayton, throw in something else.
If you could get him for, would I trade a first round pick for Ayton? Absolutely.
Yeah. A couple. I trade.
You know what I'm saying? Like that guy's he's a potential. If he came to Portland, he would be a very close, possibly an all-star. If you had him and I don't know what happened to the pick and roll offense, but you go to the pick and roll offense, Dame's pretty good at that. Mm-hmm. He's shown that with a big. Now he's athletic. He's way, way better than Nurkic. So yes, I would do that.
All right, done. Let's call it in. All right. Now you texted me something that you bring this next one in so we can argue about this one.
Well, I was so there are coaches that have been fired, right? That have pretty good track records. Coach Bud with Milwaukee just got let go after having the number 1 seed in the East. And of course, this is just Twitter fodder that I saw someone saying, should the Blazers look into hiring him and over Chauncey Billups? Mm-hmm. And my response is, of course you should check. They're not gonna. My response is they're not gonna, but of course they should check in because in my opinion, you have a coach like Budenholzer who clearly has a success. I mean, he's won a title every year. They've been, 1 or a 2 seed, and something went wrong this year in the playoffs. Where, by the way, his brother died during this run, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, who knows where his head was at? So checking in with a championship level coach to see if they had any interest in your team, not a bad thing in my opinion. And I could tell by your face when I brought it up that you thought it was silly. And I want to know why. Why do you think it's silly to check in?
Well, I don't think that if you're the Blazers and you've been putting this thing together the way you've been trying to put it together, and it's with Chauncey and with Dame endorsing Chauncey, that you're going to all of a sudden say, oh, well, hey, we're not even sure if Dame's coming back. We got to go out and try and bring some guys in to help Dame. Dame wants Chauncey. The players on the team like Chauncey. But, we're going to shift gears now, and we're going to move Chauncey to bring in this guy because he won with a championship caliber team. I would argue, and I always argue this since I really started learning more about the NBA when I was a teenager, if Chauncey Billups were coaching the Bucks as constructed, they could win a title too. Who exactly was Budenholzer? And if he's so great, why is he being fired? But if you go look at his track record, when he had good teams, he won games. When he had bad teams, he didn't win games. So I don't believe for a second that he comes to Portland, all of a sudden they're better. I just don't believe that. If Giannis comes to Portland, they're better. With Middleton and Holiday, they're better. But Budenholzer is not going to change anything for me. Whereas you take Chauncey in Boston. Boston's being led by a guy I never heard of before, right? You take a reasonably good coach and you stick him with a bunch of talent, they're going to win. How many different people has LeBron won championships with? And how many of them were fired? Spoelstra is the only one that's never been fired because in Miami, when you have a bad season, they don't just fire you. Other teams around the league, no matter how many championships you won or how many times you've been coached a year, you have a bad season or you fall short, fire you. That doesn't make him better than Chauncey or worth the risk of disrupting what they're doing to go out and kick the tires on him. And if you kick the tires on him, then you're alienating Chauncey and probably alienating Dame. So I think it's ridiculous.
So this is what I'll say is like you try to get better. I don't know how good of a coach he is. That's what I would look through. I would just say that you can't tell me that he has more experience. He has a better record. And yes, Giannis is amazing. He has a better record. But, I mean, Spoelstra's a great coach. There's no doubt about it. Everyone says it. Because he has had the chance of coaching when he was young, a LeBron James, 3-pronged star team and winning a title. And winning a title, and then he's had much less talent, and they're always competitive. This year's been amazing. But, I mean, we say Phil Jackson's one of the greatest coaches of all time, and he had 2 times when he was with the Knicks, they sucked because the talent sucked. Right? So, but
I think
what I'm saying is every player, you're trying to get players to get better. You're trying to get front office people to get better. You're trying to get coaches to get better. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't care about anybody on this team other than Dame. So if Dame said no, absolutely not, if you do that, I'm going to be ticked, then I wouldn't do it. I agree. I don't care what other players on this team think. If Dame thinks he could get better faster with a different coach, you might do it. Now, right now, Chauncey, we don't know if he can coach. I know with talent. I don't know if it'll be good because it's not always. Sometimes coaches have talent. The Brooklyn Nets stunk multiple times with talent. The Clippers have stunk with talent at times. Larry Brown got fired 4,622 times. And Larry Brown is a really good basketball coach. I promise you Larry Brown is a better coach than Chauncey Billups. Not he's like a 96, but you know what I'm saying? Like, just getting fired doesn't mean that sometimes Nick Nurse won a title and got fired. Now, is he a terrible coach? I don't know yet. Sometimes I think coaches are overrated. I 100% agree with that. I'm just saying you should look. You should look. And you're right. If Dame says no, I'm out.
Yeah, I just, it would be bad form, I think, to do that right now. Because if you're Chauncey and they go out and do that, then you're going to be like, wow, okay, it's like that. It would just be bad form. And I just don't believe that he represents someone who's going to come in here. Okay, let's put it this way. I don't think he has a better record last season with that team. I don't think he does. Okay, I think Dame wins.
It's hard to be worse. Well, it's hard to be worse.
I think Chauncey wins 50 games with the Bucks. So what are we saying?
I agree that you might win 50 games with the Bucks, right? Like, I admit that talent overcomes, especially in the NBA. I mean, I don't know if Ty Lue's a good coach or not, right? I have no idea because he won a title with LeBron, and since then he's been But I'm saying you kick tires to try to see if you can get better in any way, shape, or form. It's not ridiculous. But they're not. It doesn't matter. They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Because it costs a lot of money. It would cost a lot of money. And they're not going to spend a lot of money on their coaching staff, I don't think, right now.
I don't even think you kick tires like that. That's just too disrespectful. I think you either do it or you just stay away from it. Like, if you're like, we're going to do this, we can't believe he's available. It's just like a great example. My Cubs, when they hired Renteria, I think, was the manager during their rebuild under Theo. And then Joe Madden became available. And it was like, what? Tampa Bay fired Joe Madden? Done. They were on the phone with that guy and had that guy in and told Renteria, sorry, gotta go. We'll pay you what you owe you. But they didn't kick the tires. It was like, no, we want you now. I don't think Portland is going to do that. But if you were going to do that, like if it was Spoelstra, then you just go and you do it, done, quick, get it over with, just chop the head off and move on. But you can't go kick the tires because that just alienates Chauncey. It's going to alienate Dame unless Dame's saying do it. Now, if Dame says do it, then you're doing it because Dame's saying I'm staying no matter what. But anyway, it's an interesting discussion. But let me go back to Phil Jackson real quick since I'm a Bulls guy. Phil Jackson, what he did that was great is that he figured out a way to let Michael be Michael, but not to the detriment of the team. He got Michael to go from 37 points a game to 30. They put in the triangle offense, which let everyone touch the ball before Michael went 1-on-5. So you could create good shots. He was able to manage egos, et cetera, et cetera. He was great at that. But as far as him being an X's and O's guy or, some kind of genius coach, no. He had he inherited a team that went to the East Finals twice or once. And then he inherited that team. And then he inherited Shaq and Kobe. Like, come on. If you can't win championships with those four guys, then something's wrong with you. But he's a good coach, but probably a great coach, but, there's some overratedness there. All right. Moving on.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I've been doing some player reviews. I do this every season, sort of look back at what each player did and then sort of forecast them for the future. And I've been doing it this year, forecasting them with Dame or without Dame, which is an interesting exercise. I've gone through some of the, the G League guys, the two-way guys, the guys who aren't going to factor much into the rotation. I've gotten into the guys who could have impact or not have impact, but at least guys who really have a good chance of sticking around for sure. And so let's just go through them real quick. It doesn't have to be long, engrossed discussion, but we can just sort of go through them. And I just want to know how you think they could fit with Dame, how you think they would fit without Dame, and we can just race through these real quick. Let's start with Jabari. What are you thinking of? Keep her, move him. Jabari Walker?
I mean,
you can pass. Incomplete. You can pass. Okay, incomplete.
I mean, I'm just saying it's incomplete.
Yeah, and that's a fair answer.
Yeah,
that's fair. Okay, incomplete. All right, I say with Dame, he's a deep backup. Without Dame, he could be a starting power forward in a rebuild.
That's probably true.
In a rebuild, he could be, depending on what happens with Watford. I think definitely you want to keep him around because he's young and developing. He shows a lot of promise. He needs to get bigger, stronger, more savvy. But, man, he's got a lot of skills that I like. I think he's going to be huge for the G League team. Get him out there in the G League team, man. That's what the G League team is for guys like that to get PT. All right. Speaking of Watford, Trendon Watford.
Yeah, I think he fits. Without Dame, he's probably your spot. He probably is your starting power forward.
Right.
And without him, he's shown that he could be a piece.
Right.
With him, I mean, he's shown he could be a piece.
Yeah.
But you want to hope he's a 12 to 18 minute guy, not because then your team's much better. Right. You don't want him to be your starter unless he takes strides that I have not seen. But I've really liked his ability to pass, handle the ball for a big, good attitude, plays hard, has skill, can shoot a little, can do a little bit of everything. He's decent, right?
Yeah.
So
and he's young,
a fine
22.
bench player.
Yeah, 100% agree with everything you just said. I pretty much wrote all that. I love the fact he's such a good passer and just so instinctual that way. I think he averaged like 5 assists per game over the last few weeks. Definitely not your starter with Dame. Jeremy Grant would be your starter. In an ideal world, Winslow comes back, he's your backup, and Watford's your third forward and probably maybe your third or emergency center. But I think you definitely want to keep him because he just has a lot of upside, I think. He's only 22. All right. Speaking of Winslow, how about Winslow? Unrestricted free agent. Here's some stats for you. Their defensive rating with him was pretty solid. I think like one month, 114, 115, 116, something like that. And then when he went out in conjunction with some timeout with Nurkic and then Hart being traded, the defensive rating ballooned up to like 119 and 120 something. He also was a good facilitator on offense. I think you do everything you can to bring this guy back because they want veteran guys who are smart and play defense and can be counted on to play the game the right way, which he does. You need more Winslows, not fewer. You definitely bring that guy back.
No, I agree with everything you said, except the guy can't stay healthy. So, like, what do you spend on him?
Craig Downer.
Well, I'm just saying that's the truth.
You're right. He played 29
and it's not
games.
just here.
Yeah.
It's not just here. The guy hasn't been able to stay healthy.
Right.
The guy's attitude's great now. I mean, he's had a readjustment in his life, which clearly shows that he's understood that he's a role player because he was a lottery pick, and that's a hard adjustment. Not everyone can make it. He plays defense, multiple positions. He can handle for his size. He can't really shoot, but he kind of knows it. So you're not going to get issues.
Right.
The only problem is how much, right? Because you're spending money on a guy that at this point has not proven he can stay healthy for even, consistently. So that's, to me, it's a dollar sign and availability thing. But I think if he stays healthy on your team and he's your seventh, he comes in on that second unit, you're in good shape.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to hurt you. And he's also going to help young people who need to transition. He's going to be like, look, man, I was a top high school recruit. I was a top, college player, and this league is different. So either you adjust or you do not survive.
Perfectly said. I think definitely with Dame, you bring him back. I even think if on the cheap, if you go, young reclamation project and he doesn't get a better offer from a different team, I'd bring him back on a good contract just to have an adult in the room, to help raise the youngins, man. So yeah, I love that guy. I missed him when he was out. He's fun to cover too. Funny dude. All right, I'm gonna save your boy for last in this group. This is the backup.
See, I know who my boy is.
You know who your boy is. You
know who my boy is.
You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. Okay, let's go to Drew Eubanks. Look, man, he has a lot of different faults. That's why San Antonio moved off of him. But, man, he brings energy. He brings heart. He brings grit, tenacity. He has issues on defense. But, man, every night he blocks something. You're like, wow. Or he makes some kind of other defensive play. He's obviously great on lobs, super athletic, and dunk over people. You don't want him out there for a lot of minutes because he can get exposed. But, man, if he comes back, for me, in an ideal world, they're able to – okay, if they don't upgrade on Nurkic, you're able to get a different type of backup center, and then Eubanks is your third center. That's, to me, in an ideal world, that's what would happen. But if he is your backup, I'm okay with that if you can't do better because I think he brings a lot. But, man, it's just when Nurkic is out and you have to start Eubanks, that's a problem. But I would definitely like to see him back. I love what he brings to the team. And even if they go rebuild, you don't have a center, if they don't draft a center, I'd bring back Eubanks and start him at center.
Well, he's not going to cost a lot because if he does, you let him go. Like if
He made
someone else
1.9 this
sees
past
him
year.
and sees him as a guy that's going to, be a 25-minute a game guy like he was with you, then you let him go because the cost is going to be too much. Look, he's a local guy, plays hard, does all those things. He's unfortunate for him. He's undersized for the center position. You want him to be a third center. You do not want him to be your backup center necessarily. He's the guy you want to bring in when, for energy, when there's a matchup issue, thing where you can take advantage, where maybe you want to play small and run, and that hopefully you're not depending on him. He's not going to be a serious contributor to a good team. I just don't see it. Can he do 5 to 8? Maybe. Yes, on a good team, but you got to have 12 guys on your team. Like you got, you know what I mean? So why wouldn't you want the guy that's from Troutdale that is clearly a great teammate, brings energy, and is not looking to he doesn't try to do things he can't do, right? Every once in a while, that little floater, you're like, damn, look at that, look at that. But he's not like, oh, I can hit the three. Like he's not trying. He's like, oh,
at the end of the season, he was though.
Right. But there was nothing to play for. You know what I'm saying? But he's not going like, you know what? I think me in the post with the fade. Let me Joel Embiid this thing. Like he's not doing that. So you need to play. You need guys on the back end of your bench. Why not have the guy from Troutdale that, does all the things you want from a guy in practice and beyond?
Agreed. Okay. Nasir Little. I thought he regressed a little bit this past year. He was supposed to be in the running for the starting job at small forward, lost it to Hart. Has some really big nights like the one at New Orleans when he helped them win that game without Dame. And then other nights was just super inconsistent. The shooting improved a little bit, but I just felt like there just wasn't enough consistency that I wanted to see from him, which is probably why he's on such a team-friendly deal. I think he could, if there's a major trade that goes down and you're moving some picks to bring in a big-time starter who's going to help elevate this franchise, I kind of feel like when you start matching salaries, Nasir goes out the door. Plus, he gives that team getting him back someone who's functional, who's a good player. Like he's not a bad player. He brings energy, defense. He's a high-riser guy. Sometimes he's really, really good on the three. He's got a lot better there. But with Dame, I like him as a bench guy for a lot of different reasons. Without Dame, I'd keep him around. Maybe he's your starting three, depending on what they draft, or he's just he's a backup coming off the bench. He gives you not true veteran presence, but some experience with the young guys. So hey, that's where I'm at with Nasir.
He's a NBA basketball player at a fair price. That's where we're at with him. Like we wondered why, like we said when he signed that deal, wow, that's a little surprising. We thought he'd try to prove it. And he said, well, I needed to secure this kind of money, made sense. And now it makes a lot of sense because, again, he couldn't stay healthy. And Injuries, there's a lot of luck that goes in injuries. But truth is, there are guys that get hurt a lot and other guys that don't. Dame doesn't get hurt a lot in his career. Like, that's just the bottom line. This guy, every year there's something. To me, you utilize him to get you better any way it is. So you, of course, conclude him in a trade. He's not going to come back and bite you like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe we gave up Nasir Little. They know what they have at this point. He's a guy that could play minutes when healthy. He can bring you things on both ends of the court. But he's fine as a backup without Dame. He's fine as a guy to fill in as a starter until you get better players. But so it's fine. He's an NBA basketball player on a contract that you hope that he's at least healthy enough to play and earn.
All right, yeah, he's got 3 years left, making 6.7 next. 4 years left, making 6.2 next season. All right, now your boy, Cam Reddish. Love that name. Anyway, decent. He performed decently. Still the same thing. I think he shot what, 46%, something like that. 31 on 3, not good on 3, but he showed some flashes on defense again. Like he's just this guy that just looks the part. Like he looks like he should.
That's all he is.
He slashes sometimes and makes plays. He makes floaters. He makes twisty things in the lane. Like he just, to me, if he's your fifth option on offense, like you're good. If he brings you defense, you're good. And that's the key. He's got to elevate into a plus defender, and then his offense will be fine. If he does that, I think he's a rotational player with Dame. I do not think he's a starter, but I definitely keep him as depth because he's 6'8", and this is one of the things this team was missing last year was length, was viable length, especially off the bench. He's 6'8". Pick up the pace on defense, let the offense fall where it may, and you keep him. If you're rebuilding, it has to be pretty cheap if I'm keeping him because I'm not locking him into a lot of money because I'm trying to upgrade that small forward position. But I'm probably drafting a small forward. But if not, then it really depends on what they think of him in-house. But if they think this guy could blossom still in a couple of years, i.e. Lowry Markkanen, then you got to keep him around. I don't think he's going to command a huge offer from someone as a restricted free agent, so you can probably keep him around for maybe something close to what Nasir's getting.
Yeah. None of that stuff happens. Like he doesn't. What you said is exactly what every team was. The third team that got him, right? Like, hey man, you don't have to score 25. We don't need you to score 25. Yeah, fine. Find the one dude. The one dude. Like whoop-de, right? Like, hey, I could play in the NBA. Muggsy Bogues did it. Like, whatever, man. Like, no. Let's find all the other guys that are like Cam Reddish who couldn't figure out that you're not going to be a star. You're not going to be a star. And you got to play defense. And you're not going to score 25. Heck, if you're rebuilding, then bring him back because he'll score 25 a game if you let him. You'll lose because that's what's happened. No, I mean, look, I don't know Cam Reddish. I just know his game. He got picked by a team that needed him to do all the things or either be a star where he got drafted, first-round draft pick high up with all those skills, people comparing him to crazy people that he could be that he's not, and they gave up on him. And the Knicks went and got him and thought, well, Tom Thibodeau can make him play defense, and he'll bring offense and because he could score, and we got some issues there. And the Knicks were like, nope, didn't work. Sorry. We will give you a first-round draft pick to take him, and we'll move on. And now the Blazers got him. So and true. Let's be honest, Fentress, they liked him better on day one than they seemed to like him on the last day. Like they put him in, and when they were still hoping to play, and then they were like, yeah. Then they couldn't really find a spot for him. So I doubt they bring him back. I would be shocked. I would be surprised if they do. But at the same time, if they're rebuilding, as I always say, you're going to score 100-some-odd points. Somebody's going to get 20.
I know.
And Cam Reddish has the ability to get 20. He does. But he's not going to play defense the way you want him to. He's not going to be your fifth option.
He's young. He's young.
He's not NBA young, dude. He's not NBA young.
Whatever, man. All right. I can't honestly just disagree with anything you said. I'm the kind of guy who tries to give guys some hope when there's some ability there. And I've done that to the detriment of, wasting time on a lot of Cubs, a lot of Bears, and a lot of Bulls.
But you're a good parent.
I'm a great parent, though.
And your dog probably is allowed to make a lot of mistakes.
Right. Well, I've been trying to have my dog kick rocks a lot, but my family's like, you'll go first, dude. Anyway, okay, so here's the deal with him and Matisse, whom we're going to get to in a second. The thing that's great about them, and what I thought was sort of what Cronin was trying to do there, is that if they make a big move to get someone in there, right, to help elevate this franchise, they're going to be strapped for cash it's going to be hard to go out and get depth, right? But you have two guys who are restricted free agents who probably won't receive huge offers, who provide solid depth, and you can re-sign them as restricted free agents and go over the cap. You don't have to fit them into the cap. You can re-sign them yourself. So that's two dudes right there. And so they keep Winslow, keep Watford, are able to get someone with one of the mid-level things, keep Nasir, keep Reddish and Matisse. You got three legit veteran guys in Nasir, the other guy they bring in, and Matisse. And then you've got back, third level guys in Reddish, Nasir, Eubanks, what have you. And so I think you have something to go in there as long as you've made a big splash with in the starting five. So I think that Reddish could be a guy, they keep him on the cheap. He gives you some depth. Is he great? No. But if he's your ninth guy and you still think he might blossom, I think you're in pretty decent shape.
I agree on all the players. I don't think Reddish is coming back.
I hate you.
But I could be wrong. They could think that way. I just think that's not – I agree. That could be that, all those things. And I think that it was totally worth getting him to try. And I told you, like, hey, you're going to say all the same things that the Knicks said. And I lived it once.
And the Hawks said, right?
And it happened. Yeah. So here we are. You're right. All those things. And it's not much, right? You're no longer giving up a lot if you don't pay him much. But, that's it. I just wouldn't pay him a lot. And I don't know if he's a guy that can – there's a lot of guys that can never develop into do what Justice Winslow did. A lot of guys can't find their place because they're so skilled. Cam Reddish goes and plays summer league ball. He's the most talented guy out there. He'd kill the G League. Kill it. You know what I'm saying? Like if he was your go-to guy in the G League, he'd score 25 a game, easy. But he's not Kobe, and he's not Dame. He's not Ant. So like he won't be that. But you're right. They can find it late, or they can end up being the all-star that no one thought could be an all-star.
Lowry Marketing. Lowry Reddish. All right. We talked about Matisse for a second there. Let's get to Matisse. For me, Matisse, if they make a big trade, like I say, for a 3 or a 4, I can, and Sharp's gone, although I don't think Sharp should be starting anyway if he's around on a contender. He's going to still be too young. I see Matisse as the starting 2 guard next to Dame. He gives you better size than Ant. He gives you defense. He obviously shows if he's wide open, he's going to hit the 3, which is as your number 4 scoring option. That's what you want him to do. You don't want him creating. You want him when everything else breaks down, you kick it out to him somewhere, boom, he nails that 3, and he gives you high-end defense. So I could definitely see Matisse starting depending on whom they get in a major trade. And in a rebuild situation, I don't think Matisse would stay for that. Like I think Matisse would look to go, because I think he can be a rotational defensive guy for a good team. So I think he would look to exit and not be a part of a rebuild. But if they're playing around Dame, I could see him maybe being the starter.
Everything you said, I agree 100%.
Okay,
he has a role. No, we know what he is, and he knows what he is.
Right.
He's a really good defender who can. They want him to be a 3-and-D guy. Yes. Why would he stay when he can go to a team? And he's a guy who could play anywhere from 30 minutes to 12 minutes and be a really effective player for a certain team.
Right.
So but he is a guy. He's the last piece on a championship puzzle for a lot of teams. Like, okay, we're up. We're up 3. There's 12 seconds left. Matisse, get in and do what you do, right? That's it. But that's what you need sometimes, right? Yeah. And there's guys like that. And his offense is what it is. But he knows what he's going to work on, and they'll keep talking about, he improved his shot here. Who cares? He's going to shoot threes. He's athletic enough. He can dunk if you need him to, and he's not going to try to do crazy stuff. So I think that if and he could be a starter if the Blazers I worry about the whole part that you just said. Like, does Matisse want to stay
for a rebuild? I think he's
for any scenario that doesn't come close, right? When he might have other opportunities to join a team as a last piece. Like the Warriors might want him, like it depending on what they don't have or do have. Now they got GP2 back, so they probably don't because that role's filled. But yeah, maybe the Heat want him. And he's like, you know what? Money's the same. Weather's better, and I know I can win a title there in the next 2 years. I don't I don't know here, but yeah,
So
I like it. It was a good trade. It was smart.
Yeah, he'll be restricted so Blazers can match. But
Right.
you're right. But if he calls his agent and said I want to go somewhere, the Blazers might.
They're not going to bring him back. We know how that works.
Okay. But yeah, with Dame, I think he's a lock to be back with Dame. Okay. So now moving on to some of the bigger names here. Let's go to Nurkic. Ooh. So let me say one thing. So this came up a few times when I've been on the radio talking about these Blazers, and people talk about his durability, but it's kind of unfair. Now he did have the injury this year, obviously, that kept him out for a while. But last year he played 56 games, and that was so he missed 25, but he missed most of those exactly when they shut him down. So he was actually pretty healthy last year. The year before was a shortened season, but he had that fluke wrist thing, which I still don't understand how he broke his wrist on that. So I can't even count that. But it still is an issue because he's, regardless of my excuses or nitpicking this or that, he's still missing games. And then some of the games he does show up for, he doesn't really show up for.
That's what matters.
You're right. He's hit or miss. I think if they could upgrade there, I think they definitely would. I think that's tough. I think that's why Ayton trade would be pretty nice because that gives you a definite upgrade. But where are you on him? It's one thing to say you want to move him, but you got to get something. You got to be able to get another guy that can play in a position. Also, he could be moved in a bigger deal, just a salary match, right? So he could be gone regardless of whether you want to keep him. If you're trying to get someone else that's going to make a bigger impact. So where are you with Nurkic? Because I'm just all over the map.
So my thing with Nurkic, if he's back, you're probably not in a great place.
Unless you have a legit backup who can give you different things than what he gives you. And when he's out, you can trust that guy for 30 minutes, as opposed to I don't think you can trust Eubanks for 30 minutes every night.
See, I can't trust Nurkic for 30 minutes. That's my issue.
Not
that's
every
my
night.
issue. So if you're telling me that guy could play 30 minutes and I can count on him, then Nurkic come off.
Then maybe he's your starter.
I'm just saying, if you could get a guy that good. I mean, the Knicks have two centers, right, that they can get that they can count on, and they got a guy. They paid him decent money. He's better than Nurkic, and it's over for me with Nurkic. He's gotten all these chances to show that he could be a consistent guy that you can count on, that does what you ask him. As a coach, he's your worst. He's somewhat worse than having a bad player because at least you know what you're going to get. You don't know with Nurk. He plays 8 minutes wow, look at that. Went to the hole, dunked it, blocked a shot, set a pick, did all that. And then 5 minutes later, missed a layup, took a three when he shouldn't have. Oh, offensive foul because he set the same damn illegal pick that he's done for 7 years right in front of the ref. And he's going to complain about it. And I got to watch him complain to the ref about the foul that he definitely committed. And I don't want to do it anymore. It's enough, man. And if you're the coach, which Nurkic am I getting tonight?
Oh my God.
And are you going to, and right away, you got to be sitting here right now going, okay, we didn't make the playoffs. There are some guys that said, okay, well, I'm hitting the gym, getting, I don't worry about Damian Lillard. He's going to be in good shape. What happens with Nurk with an extra month to not be with the team? We know what can happen. He's been out of shape half the time he's been here, which is frustrating. And oh, COVID, oh, the injury, oh, this. No, he doesn't come in good shape. And people are like, well, he's going to play himself into shape. Well, that's when you get hurt. So I just think if you bring him back, it means you haven't done the other stuff. Or you bring him back because you found someone else. But I agree with one thing you said. You need tall people to play basketball.
Right.
And he is tall. And the Blazers are not tall because their backup center was Drew Eubanks, who's too short to play center. So it's hard. But, yes, you got to go find something else, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I will say this. Their defensive rating with him was a lot better, but that's also a reflection of who replaced him. But you're right. I mean, he's just not reliable. And, I think he's good when he's on, obviously. But, yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, you'll be able to maybe upgrade there. I just don't know how that's going to happen. Okay, move on. Jeremy Grant. I think, obviously, with Dame returning, he's back. If Dame leaves, I think Grant's out. And I don't think they even try to re-sign him if they're going to end up trading Dame, because what's the point in giving him $30 million a year on what's going to be a bad team for probably a couple of years. So, but Grant, obviously, you got to bring him back. As a matter of fact, losing him is a disaster, because that's basically what you got for CJ.
It's hard.
Disaster.
Because you might lose Dame. Like,
I think it's the other way. If Dame's back, Grant's back.
No, I know. I'm just saying though. Like, if you're saying, like, if you lose Grant, like if Grant says, you know what, nah, I'm out. Like Dave's like, okay, you know what? I tried.
Yeah,
I tried, but we got nothing now.
Dave says I'm back, but Grant says I'm not, and then Dame leaves. Like, yeah, I got you. Yeah.
No, Grant's got to come back. This is a no-brainer. Dame's back. Grant's got to be back. You got to pay him. You're going to overpay him a little bit, probably based on skill set and abilities. But there aren't guys lined up to replace him in that position. To me that's an easy one. And there's no chance. If Dame leaves, you don't want him, and he don't want you.
Exactly.
That's a mutual breakup.
All right, my boy, Anthony Simons.
Somebody got to go, right? Like, somebody got to go on this team if we're going to bring Dame back. So I think he's the number one guy that I would, because he's talented and people want him, and he could be a lead guard for a team and teams that don't have a lead guard. I mean, I think some of this is like the Heat getting better is not good for you. Like, slow down. Like, as far as, I mean, it is good for you because they might not need him, but I think that if you're gonna bring talent back, that's not in a trade. Your best case scenario is to keep Sharp and trade Sons. You know it's true. He wants to disagree, but he got no words.
I mean, okay, you got a talented guy, like you said. You have a contract that's in the 20s. So if you're bringing someone back, they're going to have a big contract. You're really close to matching that salary. He does not fit with Dame. They just don't fit. It's better. The thing is, it's really better for Ant to go somewhere else where he's the lead guy, where he's running the team, where he's scoring. And I think he'll be 27-7 for that team. I truly believe that. And that's better for him and his career, because in his next contract, he's going to get 40 a year, whether you think he's worth it or not. And Dame needs someone next to him who can play defense like Matisse and just have a better overall, bigger impact. If you can find a star that plays a 2, I think they're probably going to find someone who plays a 3. But regardless, I just don't think Dame and Ant make sense. And I think we sort of saw in the exit interviews that Chauncey and Dame and Cronin and even Ant were kind of hinting toward that being a thing. Like, it's a thing. So, yeah, I now, if Dame's out, if they can't make that trade and Dame's out, I'm feeling amazing about Ant, Sharp, that lottery pick, right? And starting over with those 3 cats. Because that's a great.
And whatever you get for Dame is going to,
and whatever young player and then picks you get for Dame, you're in a really good position. So Dame remains, and to me, it just makes sense for him and the franchise that he gets moved. And that hurts me to say that, but
when you say it like that, when you say it like that, it's hard to, like, objectively, a GM that doesn't know anybody and just looks at the parts, like, that seems like a faster route sometimes to a championship.
What?
Or a more realistic route to a championship.
Going young? Yeah, we're gonna get to that in another show. All right, because I have mixed feelings on that.
Not saying I want it.
Right.
Not saying I want it.
It depends. And actually, a little bit of my factor Fentress is in there a little bit on that. Okay, so Shaedon Sharp.
Yeah, I mean, unless you blow me away, I gotta. But yes, I mean, if you're trying to move on Dame's timeline, you have to be willing to trade him for something spectacular. Problem is, his contract doesn't help you as much as Simon's, right? I mean, it's
like 9, but I mean, it's a decent,
but it's not 20.
But not 20. Yeah, so you got to throw. So, that's where, like, it's Sharp and Nurkic and Lillard.
Yep. Nurkic has got to be in that then, because you got to get these contracts. So, but if you the player that's there for Sharp has to be great, and you're gonna have to throw other stuff, but. At this point in time, you'd have to tell me who, right?
It'd have to be Jaylen Brown, Bam, Siakam, someone like that. Obviously, the Embiid deal would probably involve Shaedon. I think that's a pipe dream. But I'm not doing it for Jimmy Butler. I know you love Jimmy Butler. I'm not just age difference there. I'm not doing it for Jimmy. Age difference issues for me on that. And, OG, no, not even in a million years. No. Toronto blew it. Toronto should have taken that 7th pick and drafted Shaden last year for OG. They blew that. But yeah, it has to be a knock your socks off, we're a contender type deal to make me sign off on that, because Shaden's going to be special. All right. That brings us to Dame, of course. And I think pretty much talking about everyone else, we talked about Dame, except for the idea of do you just trade him and start over? And is that your path to a title? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it depends on what you get for him. I don't think they're going to get a ton for him. I think they're going to get a decent young player like a Tyler Hero or a Maxey, sorry. And then some bunch of picks. I don't think they're going to, or maybe the Aiden thing, like I threw out there. I don't think they're going to get anywhere near close to the player that he is, even a younger version of that. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I think you definitely try and keep him and rebuild around him. But if you can't, let him go somewhere else and contend. Give me a good young player and a bunch of picks. I'm Gucci. All right, before you got to go.
Yeah, his age, whenever you trade Damian Lillard, you're not going to get talent back because he's 33, there's no 33. You're not trading Jimmy Butler for Damian Lillard. You know what I mean? Like straight up, like you're not going to find, and you don't want to do that. So you're going to get picks and hopefully another young player that is potentially an all-star or at least potentially a very, very good role player, very good starter for you for 5 years.
Right. And of course, the team Dame goes to has to be a contender after they get him. So that limits what you can get back. Okay. Last thing, fact or Fentress real quick.
Hit me. What you got? I'm excited.
So, hey, everyone's saying that if you get the number 1 pick, you got to keep it. I'm saying it's not off limits. I'm open up the bidding. What are you bringing me? Because if you're bringing me a championship in Dame's window, I'm there, because there's no guarantee that Victor Wembanyama is going to ever come anywhere near a title. No guarantee whatsoever. Give him 15 years, he may never make the finals. I don't know. But if I can get a hell of a haul that makes the Blazers a top 2 team in the league, or at least the West, done. Because I'd rather have a 3-year window with Dame with a great chance to win it than taking a flyer on him. Now, with the reason why I say that, let's just look at history, man. Now, Tim Duncan worked out, right? LeBron worked out. We don't know if this guy's as good as those guys, but just in Portland alone. Now, Walton got you a title, but then he fell to pieces. Oden didn't work out as a player, even when he was healthy, and then he fell to pieces. Bowie, we know what happened there. You can go to Zion. What's going on with Zion? Zion was can't miss. You're going to win titles, superstar, MVP. He can't stay healthy, right? Even Durant hasn't won a championship other than when he was jumping on a championship bandwagon. So there's a lot. How about Porzingis? Porzingis was supposed to be the unicorn. Wasn't he? Wasn't he the 7'5" guy?
Tell me about it.
Right. And he's good. He's averaging 23 and 9 and shooting pretty well with the Wizards. They're not even in the playoffs with Beal and Kuzma emerging. So what happened to that unicorn? My point is, he could be LeBron. If he is LeBron, is he going to take 8 or 9 years to win a championship? And what happened to LeBron? He left Cleveland. Durant left OKC. There's a great chance that Victor could leave Portland in 7 years or 6 years or whatever. We don't know. He's a tall, athletic, ridiculously skilled, big guy who weighs 110 pounds. Where's Chet Holmgren right now? He's hurt already. He's a string bean. Does that mean he's never going to be good? No, it doesn't mean that. We saw what Embiid went through, and then he blossomed after 4 years of battling injuries. I'm just saying, though, tall, skinny, young guys do not necessarily work out very well in the NBA. In the history of this league, they just don't. Durant is the exception, really, when you think about it. And Victor has some similarities to him. So now, what would that deal be? It would have to be ridiculous. Like, it would just have to be, if Miami said, we're starting over, we'll give you Butler and Bam. Done. Because if I'm starting Dame, Butler, Bam, Grant, Nurkic, well, I got to give salaries for those guys. I will probably won't have Nurkic. You got to throw. I'm contending, though. That's a contending team. If Toronto offers me OG and Siakam, I'm considering that. If Jaylen Brown wants out, I can get Jaylen Brown and I'd want like Williams. I'm considering that. Because now if I can get Embiid, I'm considering that. It has to be something where I am a championship contender right this second. And the great thing about the West right now is that Curry's getting older. He's older than Dame. LeBron's getting older. Although they're still obviously really good. They're both in the semis, right, in the West. Durant's getting older. Paul's getting older. Like the next 3 years, there's going to be a legit window if you have a high-end, high-level team. So I don't think Victor is off the table.
Yeah, what you described is fact. I mean, I would agree. I would say also get the first round pick, get a first rounder back with those mixes, which you probably could do because you're going to be taking someone who's moving up. I mean, I just explained to you that I've lived the lottery dream, and it's kicked me right in the hello multiple times, and I have no championships. I have two things that I thought for sure I was counting the rings, and they didn't come to pass. I mean, the Knicks went to a finals with Patrick, and John Starks can't make a shot. Charles Smith doesn't know that when you're 6'10", you should dunk.
Blocked again. That was the greatest Bulls moments of my life, dude. That was amazing.
Dunk it, man, dunk it. So I'm with you. Like, there's no guarantee, and I think it's a no-brainer that you draft them. If you don't get that, and you pray that you have found the unicorn's unicorn, because agreed, Kevin Durant is the closest thing we've seen to a 7-footer who weighs nothing.
Good one.
To really blossom into one of the greatest of all times, because the other ones have been broken down and gotten hurt, or didn't remain that skinny. But Ralph Sampson, close but different, right? In a different era. But Ralph Sampson, 7'4", skinny as heck, but he never did anything but dunk and block shots, and the league was different. You can't do that anymore, and that's not how this guy plays.
True.
So this guy plays in a way where his knees and ankles and shin bones and all these things got to move, and they break on people with this build at times. But that's why you got to say he's a unicorn, because the unicorn is an animal that's magical, right? And so that's what you got to hope, that there's magic there.
And a great point about Garnett, though. Garnett didn't win with Minnesota. He won on Boston. And that's the other part of this. Like, if the guy works out, like Garnett, LeBron, Durant, are they going to stay and win a championship with the team that drafted him? Or are they going to win that championship ever? So my point is that if you go back and look at the quote-unquote can't-miss, elite-level, unicorn talents that have been drafted in the last however many years, the vast majority either didn't work out, were injured too much, or won championships with other teams that didn't draft them. That's the vast majority.
That got drafted, or the guys that got drafted after him were better.
Well, then that happens too. So if you were looking for a guy to come up against you, like you said it, like I already mentioned some of it, I am always saying that you should take guaranteed talent. Like, not always, but you have to consider guaranteed talent over future talent. You have to. And people like dreaming the dream is it's what GMs want to do, because it gives them a cushion, for a little while, and it gives them an excuse. Like, well, everyone else would have picked him too. Like, I love that one. Like, when the excuse for, the Blazers excuse with Pritchard. Well, everyone else was going to pick him too. No, somebody else would have. Right. And they were all wrong. Right. They were all wrong, man. Like, Kevin Durant was the right pick. Greg Oden was not the right pick. Michael Jordan was the right pick. Sam Bowie was the wrong pick. So, yes, maybe everyone would have done it and they would have all been wrong, right? That's your job, is to be right. And just because all the other, people would have been wrong, but GMs get that, right? You have to keep there's no doubt who's going number one. No one's going to take Scooter Anderson 2, even though there's a chance that he ends up being, maybe he's Michael Jordan. Who knows? I mean, we've been through this. Luka Doncic, I mean, who knew, right? Steph Curry, who knew? Somebody knew, because they picked him. They were right. Like, eventually, or they hoped.
Right.
They hoped.
But I'm just saying, like, that's the whole thing about future talent. Yeah. It's unpredictable. And when you are looking at a guy 7'3", 7'4", that's is a small forward, it's never the only person that's close at small forward is Kevin Durant. Garnett started, right, because he moved a little bit further. It was like, all right, I'm not going to be a traditional center. But Kevin Durant is 7 feet tall. He now actually admits it. And he is a 3. And that's what this guy's supposedly – but Durant doesn't even play defense like a 5. You know what I mean? This guy's supposedly going to play defense like a 5. Yeah. Well, I don't know how he's going to stop I don't know yet how he's going to stop an Embiid from knocking him down or even a Nurkic.
Yeah,
I'm excited as heck to see it happen, though, because it looks like a lot of fun. But no, I'm with you. I would do it.
It's hard to put on weight to someone that tall and that skinny. That's not an easy thing to do.
No.
Like, you know, he's already 19. Like, he doesn't have any bulk at all. He's not going to just all of a sudden just throw on a bunch of weight. I mean, he's going to get a little thicker here and there, but I don't know. I'm not saying he's not going to be amazing. He might be. He might be a three-time MVP and win a couple titles. I'm just saying that if I got David, I can get a boatload of stuff that makes me the best team in the West, or the NBA, everyone's like, oh my God, Blazers #1. I'm doing it. All right. Well, I'm a little disappointed because I shadow argued with you all weekend. I went to training like Rocky, drink some raw eggs.
Should have thought about my history,
ran
man.
around the block once while preparing for my argument with you, and you just agreed with me, which is very shocking.
Well, you didn't know my history. Now you know.
Now I know. All right. That's it for this episode of the Blazer Focused podcast. Thanks for listening. Please leave us a positive rating and click that subscribe button. And we are going to be back, hopefully, well, I'm planning on having another one right before the lottery. Not sure exactly when, but we'll be back real soon. Thanks.